Truistery Vibes warmly welcomes all our beloved listeners. We're so glad to see you again in our familiar time slot.
Today,
Truistery Vibes brings you a brand new story, one that we hope will touch your heart and stay with you. As you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing the quote or moment that left the deepest impression on you. Wishing you a wonderful and meaningful listening experience. Harper Flynn pressed her palm against the wide loft window and let her gaze drift over the mist-wreathed Willamette River. At 32, she had transformed this industrial warehouse into a sunlit atelier filled with clean lines, gleaming hardwood floors, and floor-to-ceiling shelves of reclaimed wood samples. As a freelance architect, Harper thrived on designing homes that blended modern minimalism with the earthy warmth of the Pacific Northwest. Yet this morning, her thoughts were far from blueprints and material finishes. Behind her, the low hum of the espresso machine beckoned. Avery Scott, her closest friend since college, was already at the Maple and Main Cafe corner, steaming milk for their daily latte. Months ago, Harper and Avery had carved out office hours here, Harper drafting facade details in her sketchbook while Avery tested new pastry recipes. The cafe's exposed brick, amber Edison bulbs, and succulents in vintage mason jars created the perfect backdrop for late-night problem-solving and laughter that echoed long after closing time. A soft click announced the arrival of 5-year-old Noah. He burst into the loft wearing a dinosaur t-shirt that read, "Roar means I love you," clutching his favorite Tyrannosaurus Rex figurine. His curly brown hair, still damp with morning bedhead, framed an eager face full of questions. "Mom," he chirped in a voice still husky from sleep, "can we go to Cedar Falls Park today?" Harper felt her chest lighten. Weekends were sacred, but today was Wednesday. Still, Noah's excitement was contagious. She set her notebook aside. Draft notes on the Willow Creek residences could wait. Scooping him up, she balanced his weight on one hip and her tall oat milk latte in the other hand. "Park sounds perfect, buddy," she said, kissing the crown of his head. "Let me grab your jacket." As Noah chattered about swing sets and the pond's ducks, Harper reflected on her life in Cedar Falls, a charming riverside town 30 miles south of Portland. She'd moved here 6 years ago, enticed by the wide sidewalks, local farmers markets, and tight-knit arts community. Her studio was nestled in a converted brick building on Elm Street, just a block from the bustling Main Avenue, where Avery's Cafe stood like an artisanal beacon. Harper's career had taken off quickly. Early on, she'd impressed local developers with her eco-friendly concept for the Willow Creek residences, 3-story townhomes with solar panels, green roofs, and native plant courtyard gardens. Her firm handshake, quiet confidence, and impeccable attention to detail earned her both clients' and critics' respect. Yet her greatest achievement remained balancing her professional ambitions with raising Noah alongside her husband, Mason Brooks. Mason, at 35, was Cedar Falls' golden boy of real estate. As director of development at Brooks & Company, he oversaw high-end condominium projects that glinted like jewelry against the skyline. His easy charm, an effortless grin paired with dark brown eyes, and his penchant for late dinners at trendy gastropubs had been part of their courtship romance. He'd wooed her with promises of stability, weekend getaways at a lake cabin, and whispered dreams of a modern farmhouse in North Cedar Falls. But lately, Harper sensed a shift. Mason's urgent, business trips to Portland stretched from overnight stays into multi-day absences. Texts from him arrived at odd hours, often cryptic or hastily deleted. She'd chalked it up to work pressure, until a single accidental peek at his phone awakened a quiet doubt she could no longer ignore. On her drafting table, a cluster of mood boards awaited her touch. Brass hardware swatches, weathered oak planks, and vibrant green moss samples. Each tactile piece told part of the story she'd weave into her next project. Yet she felt perpetually in tension between her creative flow and the gnawing unease about what Mason might be hiding. And then there was Zoey Caldwell. Zoey, 22, had arrived in Cedar Falls 3 semesters ago to pursue a fine arts degree at Cedar Falls University. As Harper's cousin on her mother's side, she seemed like an innocent casualty of family loyalty. Zoey's work, bold graffiti murals and abstract canvases splashed with daring color, lined the university galleries. She embodied youthful spontaneity. Once, Harper had found her painting wildflowers on the cafe's front windowsill at dawn, humming a melody only she knew. When Zoey's savings ran out, Harper had invited her to stay in a cozy guest room above the studio. They shared dinners of quinoa stuffed peppers and roasted Brussels sprouts, talking about art exhibitions and client revisions. Zoey joked that Harper's passion for structural integrity could teach her the virtues of punctual critique. Harper admired Zoey's unrestrained creativity, even as she worried about her cousin's tendency to skip deadlines. Today, Harper planned to pick up Zoey before heading to the park, another precious moment to stitch family bonds back together. But as she tightened the laces on Noah's sneakers, her phone buzzed with a message from Avery. "Got you a double shot today, extra whip. See you soon?" Harper typed back a heart emoji and slipped Noah into his car seat, determined to savor a normal morning. Outside, a breeze ruffled the budding leaves on Cedar Street. The sun peeked through low clouds, promising a crisp spring day. Harper and Noah would chase the park pond's geese, share peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on a picnic bench, and let the world's worries dissolve into the laughter of a child's delight. But as the engine purred to life, a sliver of tension tightened in Harper's chest. Foundations could be strong, but even the sturdiest building needed a solid core. Today, deep beneath the morning's calm, Harper knew she stood on the edge of a question she could no longer avoid. How strong was the foundation of her own family? With that thought, she pulled onto Cedar Street, the morning sun warming her resolve. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it with the same purposeful grace she brought to every blueprint she drew. And at her side, Noah's small hand in hers reminded her that some creations, like love and family, were the most precious designs of all. Harper navigated the narrow streets of downtown Cedar Falls with practiced ease, the morning sun glinting off Mason Brooks's newest high-rise, the Cascade, just blocks away. Her mind, however, was elsewhere, still haunted by the fleeting glimpse of Mason's phone screen the night before. She replayed the memory like a cracked recording, an innocuous ping in the dark. A name she recognized all too well, Zoey Caldwell, followed by an emoji she would never have expected on Mason's messages, a red lipstick kiss. She dropped Noah off at Cedar Falls Elementary, tucking a loose curl behind his ear. "Have fun, buddy," she whispered. He scampered down the sidewalk without a backward glance, clutching his backpack. Watching his retreating figure, Harper felt a pang of urgency. Today, she wouldn't let uncertainty fester another second. She needed the truth. Inside her loft, Harper's studio felt impossibly silent. The afternoon light filtered through the large window, illuminating scattered sketches of townhome layouts. She poured herself a cup of coffee, black, strong, and set it on the drafting table. Fingertips trembling, she opened her laptop and located the voice memo app. Last night's recording was still there, 3 minutes, 42 seconds of her voice, Zay's, and the faint echo of Mason's footsteps in the hallway. The evidence she never wanted to have. She pressed play. Zoey, voice trembling. "I didn't mean to hurt her, Mason. It just happened. One text led to late-night calls, and I swear I didn't plan for this." Mason, softly, "Zoey, you're special. Don't doubt that. I never thought it would get this complicated." Zoey's sobs echoed through the recording. Harper's heart twisted. She fast-forwarded to the part she needed. "Zoey, I know this is wrong. She's my cousin and your wife, but I can't stop missing you." Mason, sighing, "I know. We both got in too deep. But I can't lose you now." Harper closed her eyes, holding back tears. The betrayal was a live wire in her chest. She replayed it once more, then exported the file to her encrypted divorce folder. This was not how she wanted to spend her mornings, gathering proof of her husband's infidelity, but she would not be blindsided again. She spent the next hour combing through Mason's phone logs. Late-night calls at 2:17 a.m. on Wednesday. A 3-hour phone session on Friday. Group texts with Zoey labeled weekend plans. Each timestamp etched a deeper stain on her trust. Harper took screenshots, backing them up to the cloud. Her professional discipline kicked in, meticulous, methodical, unemotional. She was building an airtight case. By mid-afternoon, Avery arrived at the loft, carrying 2 steaming lattes and a chocolate croissant. She slipped into the studio without knocking, as though always invited. "Hey," Avery said softly, setting down the tray. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Harper managed a wan smile. "Something like that." She gestured to the laptop. "Can you listen to this?" Avery donned headphones and pressed play. Zoe's anguished words filled the air, followed by Mason's quiet admissions. Avery pulled off the headphones, placing a hand on Harper's shoulder. "Harper, I'm so sorry." Her voice was gentle but firm. "You know what you have to do, right?" Harper nodded, exhaling. "I filed for divorce papers this morning. I just needed to feel certain." She closed her laptop. "Now I have to confront Zoe and Mason. In person." Avery offered a reassuring smile. "You're not alone. I'll be there when you need me." That evening, Harper found Zoe in the guest bedroom-turned-studio, paint-splattered jeans rolled at the ankles, experimenting with a new color palette. The late golden light caught Zoe's profile as she mixed cerulean and burnt sienna on a palette. Zoe's head snapped up at Harper's knock. "Hey, Harp." Her voice faltered when she saw the steely resolve in Harper's eyes. "What's going on?" Harper stepped inside, closing the door behind her. She placed the laptop on Zoe's drafting table and pressed play again. Zoe's face drained of color as the recording played. When the final sigh faded, Zoe's lower lip trembled. "Zoe," Harper said quietly, "I invited you here because you're family. I trusted you." She paused, searching Zoe's eyes. "But you crossed a line." Zoe's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry, Harper. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Tears spilled onto her cheeks. I love him." Her words were a dagger. Harper's chest felt raw. "You love him? You love my husband? You stole him from me." Zoe flinched at each word. "I never meant to hurt you. I was vulnerable, new city, no money, and he was kind to me." "Kind?" Harper's laugh was sharp. "He was my husband." Zoe covered her face with shaking hands. "I know," she sobbed. "I know." Harper took a deep breath. Her voice wavered, but remained controlled. "You need to leave. Tonight." Zoe looked up, horror in her eyes. "But where will I go? I'm pregnant." "I'll call you mother," Harper interrupted. "She'll come get you. But until then you need to pack." Zoe's sobs grew louder, echoing the guilt she could no longer contain. Harper turned and left, closing the door behind her. In the hallway, she squared her shoulders, steeling herself for the next step, confronting Mason. At home, Harper found Mason in the living room, reviewing architectural renderings on his tablet. His familiar smirk faded when he saw her expression. "Harper, everything okay?" he asked. Her voice was calm, but void of warmth. "We need to talk." She held up the tablet displaying the same recording Zoe had heard. Mason's face paled as his own voice filled the room. He fumbled for words. "Harp, it's not what it sounds like." "It's exactly what it sounds like," Harper interrupted. "I listened to every word." She took a step closer. "You betrayed me with Zoe. Do you have any explanation?" Mason opened his mouth and closed it, throat bobbing. Finally, he whispered, "I'm sorry." "Sorry?" Harper's eyes brimmed with tears. "Sorry doesn't cut it. Not now, not ever." Mason stood, looking lost. "What do you want me to do?" Harper met his gaze. "I filed for divorce. The papers are in the mail." Her words landed like hammer blows. Mason sagged, reality crashing in. Harper turned and walked past him, passing the framed family photo of her, Mason, and Noah on the mantel. She paused for a moment, placing her hand over the image before continuing toward the door. Outside, the sky had shifted to dusky pink. Harper inhaled the cool evening air, her heart pounding with both sorrow and relief. The groundwork of her marriage, once solid as concrete, had cracked. But for the first time, she felt a spark of clarity. The secret was unearthed, and now she could begin the honest work of rebuilding her life. She pressed her phone to her ear. "Avery? Can you come over?" Harper took one last look at the streetlights flickering along Cedar Street. The truth had been revealed, raw and unyielding, but she was ready. With Avery at her side, she would face the consequences and forge a new foundation for herself and Noah, stronger and more resilient than before. And as the city lights of Cedar Falls began to twinkle, Harper knew that this night marked the end of lies and the beginning of her true freedom. Early morning light filtered through the Venetian blinds as Harper Flynn sat at her drafting table. The divorce papers spread before her like an architectural plan she never wanted to design. The Marion County Family Court building stood 3 blocks away, a stately brick structure with tall, white columns and etched glass doors bearing the county seal. Today, Harper would cross its threshold not as a spectator, but as a petitioner demanding a legal end to her marriage. She smoothed the stack of documents: the petition for dissolution of marriage, a notice of petition, a request for child custody and support, and the crucial Exhibit A, her printed transcript and screenshots of Mason's messages and call logs, together with the recording of his conversation with Zoey. Each page felt heavier than the last. Noah clambered into the room, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Mom, can I have my pancakes now?" he asked, voice still coated in morning gravel. Harper managed a tight smile. "Just a minute, sweetheart." She scooped him into her lap and kissed his temple. "After breakfast. I have to go to a meeting, an adult meeting, but I'll be back soon." He nodded, satisfied with a hug, and ran downstairs. Harper took one last breath, grabbed her leather portfolio, and stepped out onto Maple Street. The air carried the faint scent of lilacs from a neighbor's garden. She hailed a rideshare to the courthouse, her stomach fluttering as though she were about to present a high-stakes pitch rather than finalize the end of her marriage. Inside the courthouse, marble floors echoed with the tap of polished shoes. She checked in with the bailiff, who handed her a numbered slip. "Room 204, he directed with a curt nod. Waiting area benches were nearly full, couples arguing quietly, children fidgeting, a few individuals scrolling phones in anxious silence. Harper found an empty seat and laid her portfolio next to her. In her mind, she reviewed the sequence. File petition. Serve Mason Brooks with papers. Attend the initial case management conference in 90 days. Secure temporary custody and support orders. Her pulse steadied. She had taken control. The court clerk called her number. Harper stood, smoothed her blazer, and entered room 204. 2 wooden chairs faced a low desk where Magistrate Judge Elena Rivera presided. Judge Rivera's silver hair was pulled into a severe bun. Her black robe fell in straight lines. Her sharp gaze flicked down the bench as Harper approached. "Miss Flynn," the judge inquired. "Yes, Your Honor." Harper placed her documents on the desk. "I'm here to file for dissolution of marriage and request custody of my son, Noah Flynn." Judge Rivera scanned the papers. "Grounds?" Harper's voice was steady, precise. "Irreconcilable differences, plus incontrovertible evidence of marital infidelity on Mr. Brooks's part." The judge's eyebrow rose. "You've submitted Exhibit A?" "Yes, Your Honor." Harper slid the printed transcript and USB drive forward. "This includes call logs, message screenshots, and a recording of Mr. Brooks admitting to an affair with my cousin, Miss Caldwell." Judge Rivera tapped her pen. "Very well. Miss Flynn, I'll issue a summons and temporary restraining order prohibiting Mr. Brooks from removing Noah from your primary custody or from coming within 100 yards of your residence or place of work." She signed the forms crisply. "Clerk, please prepare these documents for service." A court officer took the papers, while Judge Rivera continued. "Service must be completed within 30 days. A hearing on temporary orders will be set for 2 weeks from today. You understand?" Harper nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." "Thank you." As she left the bench, the weight on her shoulders felt lighter, like a structure whose rotten support beams had finally been removed. Outside the courtroom, She exhaled a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The next stop was the Sheriff's Civil Division on the courthouse's second floor. Mason's service packet, bearing the court seal, would need to be personally delivered. The process server, a brisk woman in a navy blazer named Officer Jenkins, explained the procedure. She'd attempt to serve Mason at his office, his home, or any known address. If unsuccessful after 3 attempts, Harper could request alternative service. Back in her car, Harper finally allowed herself to feel the tremor of relief. The first domino had fallen. It was only a matter of time before the rest would follow. That afternoon, she returned to her loft to find Avery waiting on the steps, arms folded, lips set in a determined line. "How'd it go?" Avery asked without preamble. Harper sank onto the bottom step. "It's filed. Exhibit A hit the bench. They've scheduled a hearing. Temporary orders are granted." Avery closed the gap and enveloped Harper in a hug. "You did it." A hot mix of triumph and grief welled in Harper's eyes. It felt like design by destruction. "I've never wanted anything more than to keep my family intact." Avery stepped back, brushing a strand of hair from Harper's face. "You kept yourself and Noah safe. That's the job of any architect, to know when a building is beyond repair and must be torn down for something new to rise." Harper managed a small smile. "You're a poet." They fell into companionable silence, the afternoon sun slanting through the loft kitchen window. A tray of leftover sandwiches and cold coffee sat on the counter. Avery grabbed a turkey and avocado wrap and handed one to Harper. "You need fuel." As Harper bit into the wrap, her phone buzzed, a calendar reminder. Hearing, 2 weeks. Her heart skipped a beat. 2 weeks of interim living, of imagining what Mason might do once he received the papers. That evening, when Noah came home, Harper tucked him into bed, smoothing his hair as he babbled about the lunch menu. "Mommy," he said sleepily, "will Daddy come tomorrow?" Harper kissed his cheek. "Daddy's busy with work, sweetie. We'll see him soon." Noah nodded, drifting off. Harper stood at his doorway, watching the gentle rise and fall of his chest. She felt both guilt and pride. Guilt for the confusion she was bringing him, and pride in the boundaries she was drawing to keep him safe. She whispered, "Sleep tight, my love." Later, she sat by her drafting table under the warm glow of a desk lamp. She picked up a blank page and began sketching vertical lines, foundation pillars for what would become a new chapter. In the margin, she wrote a single word: resilience. Across town, Mason stormed into his office, the service papers in hand. His developer's facade of confidence cracked as he reread the judge's orders. Temporary custody to Harper Flynn. No contact within 100 yards. Hearing in 2 weeks. He sank into his leather chair, the city lights reflecting off the tabletops like a shattered skyline. Back in her loft, Harper closed her laptop and gathered her toolkit, blueprints, mood boards, and a quiet resolve. She would redraw the lines of her life, secure in the knowledge that the ink on her divorce petition was barely dry, but in that moment, Harper Flynn felt an unshakable sense of possibility. Her vows had shattered, but from the rubble, she would rise. And as the clock ticked toward tomorrow, toward that pivotal hearing, she knew one thing with absolute certainty: her future would be her finest design yet. The box truck rumbled up East Cedar Falls Avenue at dawn. Its engine was a low growl beneath the soft chorus of morning songbirds. Harper Flynn stood on the front stoop of her new one-bedroom apartment. She watched the driver maneuver the rented Penske van into a parking spot. The building's faded brick facade and peeling awning weren't glamorous, but they were hers and Noah's, a fresh start after the turmoil of divorce. Noah, bundled in a red windbreaker 2 sizes too big, tugged at Harper's hand. "Is this home now, Mom?" His eyes were bright with curiosity, not yet clouded by worry or resentment. Harper knelt to hug him. "Yes, sweetheart. This is our new home." She pointed at the second-floor windows. "That's our living room window. Let's go watch our things come out." Inside, the apartment smelled like untouched carpet and promise. A small entryway led to a combined living/kitchen area. Avery had already placed a welcome basket full of granola bars, fresh fruit, and a bottle of lavender-scented hand soap. Harper ran her fingertips over the glossy subway tile backsplash and the tiny granite countertop. She marveled that this space, so modest, could feel so full of potential. By mid-morning, boxes littered every corner. Avery arrived with coffee from Maple and Maine, 2 large lattes topped with foam hearts, and a bag of her special oat and blueberry muffins. "Fuel for the marathon," she declared, placing the tray on a stack of travel guides and children's books. Harper grinned, gratefully accepting a cup. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you." Avery shrugged, tying her apron strings. "You'd find a way. But until then, consider me your co-architect of domestic bliss." They laughed as a mover lugged in the first sofa, a soft gray sectional that fit snugly along the window wall. Noah immediately climbed onto the unwrapped cushions, squealing with delight. "It's like a giant marshmallow," he cried. Harper and Avery exchanged a relieved glance. Noah's joy was contagious, a reminder of why they had uprooted their lives. The faint ache at Harper's heart, echoes of betrayal, receded as she watched her son bounce in place. After the sofa, the boxes kept coming. Noah's toy bins, Harper's drafting table, Avery's houseplant gift, a resilient snake plant in a woven basket, and a small dining set Avery had sourced from a local thrift shop. Each item found its place, slowly transforming the empty shell into a lived-in home. That afternoon, Harper tackled the kitchen. She unpacked pots and pans, lining them neatly on open shelving. Next to her, Avery showed her how to install floating shelves with concealed brackets, a little weekend DIY project. Harper measured and drilled, then stepped back to admire new ceramic bowls and mismatched mugs she'd collected over the years. "Now," Avery said, holding up a faded cookbook, "we need to christen this kitchen with something delicious." She flipped to her handwritten recipe for lemon garlic roasted chicken. "Nothing says home like herbs roasting in the oven," she added. Harper prepped the chicken, seasoning it with fresh rosemary and garlic she'd bought at the Cedar Falls Farmers Market. The aroma filled the apartment within minutes, weaving through the boxes and unfinished walls like an embrace. As the chicken roasted, they sat at the small dining table. 2 mismatched chairs, one reclaimed from Avery's cafe, the other from Harper's childhood home. Over plates of golden chicken, roasted potatoes, and crisp green beans, they chatted about everything and nothing. Client deadlines, Noah's kindergarten orientation, Avery's plan to host an open mic poetry night at the cafe next Friday. When Avery left, Harper washed the dishes and sat on the couch, pulling Noah close. He cradled a plush dinosaur, eyes heavy. "Thank you, Mom," he whispered. "I like our new home." Harper kissed the top of his head. "Me too, buddy. Me too." She tucked him into the small alcove that served as his bedroom, just big enough for a twin bed, a bookshelf of picture books, and a glow-in-the-dark star map on the ceiling. She read him a chapter from Where the Wild Things Are. The familiar words soothed both of them. When Noah fell asleep, Harper turned off the light and crept back to the living room. She sank into the sectional, scanning the pristine walls and boxes half unpacked. A single tear slipped down her cheek, not of sorrow, but of grateful relief. She was building something new here, without lies, without broken promises. It would take time, but she felt stronger already. The next morning unfolded in a familiar rhythm. Harper brewed coffee while Noah gobbled cereal, then loaded him into his booster seat for the short walk to Cedar Falls Elementary. They passed maple trees just budding with spring leaves. Neighborhood dogs sniffed the grass on morning patrols. Neighbors waved kindly as they set out for work. After drop-off, Harper headed back to her drafting table. She had a proposal due: the renovation of the historic Ellis warehouse loft, converting it into affordable artist live-work spaces. She opened her laptop and sketched the first floor plan, integrating communal studios, green courtyards, and a rooftop terrace with native plant gardens. Ideas flowed more easily than they had in months, her creative well no longer poisoned by anxiety. Around noon, Avery texted, "Brunch at 1? I need your input on cafe mural designs." Harper replied with a thumbs-up emoji and some enthusiastic exclamation points. At Maple and Main, the atmosphere was buzzing. Local artists pinned their work on the community board. College students typed away on laptops. Freelance writers nursed cappuccinos. Avery's new mural, a vibrant swirl of maple leaves rising like phoenix feathers, glowed on the back wall, waiting for final touches. Harper grabbed a latte and reviewed Avery's sketches on the back of a takeout box. They discussed color palettes, brushstroke styles, and how the mural could reflect Cedar Falls' identity. Resilience, creativity, and community. "Let's add a subtle silhouette of the old train bridge," Harper suggested, tracing her finger. "It ties in local history." Avery nodded. "Perfect. You're officially my guest artist." She scooped a brush from the counter and handed it to Harper. Harper hesitated, then dipped it in teal paint. She felt a spark of playfulness as she added a bold stroke. In that moment, she realized that life after betrayal could still be beautiful, collaborative, and creative. By late afternoon, Harper returned to her apartment, armed with groceries for dinner. On the way, she passed the Cedar Falls Community Garden, where rows of raised beds displayed early spring shoots. She snapped a photo of a spindly tomato plant, planning to buy seedlings next weekend. At home, she found a letter from her attorney confirming Mason's receipt of the divorce papers. No response yet. Harper set it aside without opening. She didn't need to know his reaction today. She unpacked groceries, zucchini, grape tomatoes, a baguette, and prepared a simple pasta primavera, using a recipe passed down from her grandmother. The meal was colorful and light, a fitting contrast to heavy emotions. Over dinner, she made plans to enroll Noah in weekend soccer clinics, wanting him to have stability and fun. After kitchen cleanup, she lit a handful of soy candles and sank into the sectional with a sketchbook. On the next page, she penciled the Ellis warehouse facade, its arched windows and industrial charm. Her designs felt freer now, unburdened by the system, the need to appease someone else's vision. That evening, Avery popped by again, this time with a battered guitar case. "Open mic night at Maple and Main," she announced. "You're coming, whether you design a new mural or not." Harper laughed. "I might actually watch instead of critique tonight." They walked together to the cafe, the evening air warm with promise. Inside, fairy lights twinkled overhead, and a small stage glowed under a spotlight. Harper spotted Mason's old car parked outside. Her stomach clenched briefly, but she pushed it aside. Young poets recited verses about lost love. Local singer-songwriters strummed heartfelt ballads. Harper sipped her chamomile tea, feeling a kinship with each performer. Vulnerability laid bare for the world to see, risking rejection for authenticity. When the final poet closed his set with a hopeful refrain, "From ashes we rise anew," Harper felt tears well up. She grasped Avery's hand, nodding. This was her community, people who dare to share their stories, support each other, and believe in second chances. On the walk home, Harper kept her eyes forward, matching her steps to Avery's. She realized she had found not only a friend but a partner in rebuilding her life. And for Noah's sake, and her own, she would continue to design a future rooted in honesty, creativity, and love. As they reached the apartment door, Harper paused and looked back at the glow of Maple and Main. Tomorrow, more challenges and drafts awaited, but tonight, she allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. She was not merely surviving, she was thriving blueprint by blueprint, rebuilding a home that reflected her truest self. And as the door clicked shut behind them, the foundations she laid, in both structure and spirit, felt stronger than ever. Zoey Caldwell jerked awake to the shrill ring of her cell phone. The harsh morning sun stabbed through the blinds of the small guest room. Her heart pounded when she saw Mason's name on the screen. Each throb echoed the dread that tightened in her chest. She answered on the second ring. "Where are you?" His voice was low and clipped. She was still half asleep, mind foggy. I'm at home," she stammered, though she didn't know where home was anymore. A crashing noise came through the line, followed by Mason's muttered curse. "Don't answer the door next time. You have 12 hours to get your things and be out. Don't make me serve you with anything." Her stomach lurched. 12 hours to pack every trace of her existence and vanish from the one safe harbor she had left. She hung up and sat on the edge of the bed. Tears pricked her eyes. 6 months pregnant, with nowhere to go. Packing was a blur. She shoved clothes into a battered suitcase. She threw in her art supplies, charcoal pencils, tubes of oil paint, brushes still damp with cerulean blue, and crammed her favorite sketchbook between 2 pillows. She padded downstairs, pausing at Harper's bedroom door as if to plead forgiveness. But the hallway was empty, the front door unlocked. She stepped out into the crisp early air, suitcase clutched in one hand, keys in the other. She slid into her unreliable Honda Civic. The guest room's cozy blankets, the soft pillows, even the lingering scent of Harper's vanilla candle, all were left behind in her desperate flight from shame and heartache. At first, Zoey drove without direction. Tears fogged her vision. She ended up at the edge of downtown, where the storefronts gave way to cracked sidewalks and shuttered warehouses. She parked beside a dilapidated diner whose neon sign blinked, "Open." Inside, the diner's greasy booths and clattering plates felt like a testament to her own unraveling. She approached the counter. I'll wash dishes," she offered, throat tight. The cook, a burly man with a permanent grease stain on his apron, shrugged. "Start now. No breaks. You scrub till close. If you don't quit first, you get paid." Terrified but cornered, Zoey donned rubber gloves. She plunged her hands into steaming water. From dawn until noon, she scrubbed tarnished silverware and cracked plates. Her back ached, her knuckles raw. Every time her phone buzzed with a blocked number or a missed call from home, fear spurred her on. When the manager finally counted hours and thrust broken bills into her hand, $20, Zoey's chest tightened. The numbing reality settled in. $20 wouldn't cover a week's bus fare, let alone rent. She left the diner, blinking against the bright sun. $20 life preserver clutched in trembling fingers. Across the street, she spotted a public library and slipped inside, hoping for shelter. She spent the afternoon in the quiet stacks, hiding in a dim corner. She used library restrooms to wipe away the diner's grease with soapy water. She changed into clothes donated to the library's community closet, sweatpants, and an old sweatshirt so she wouldn't stick out. But the flip-flops she'd borrowed rubbed her feet raw. Every time she passed the front desk, hopeful for a warm greeting or at least a sympathetic glance, she felt the weight of her failure. Night found her standing outside a church that hosted a crisis pregnancy hotline. She considered turning away, pride, shame, panic warred within her. But the cramp in her belly, a warning flash of pain, urged her forward. She slipped inside. The soft glow of fluorescent lights illuminated a community bulletin board cluttered with flyers for support groups and food pantries. A volunteer at a folding table glanced up, concern flickering across her face. "You look like you need help," she said gently. Zoey nodded, tears ebbing before they could fall. The volunteer listened as Zoey spilled everything: Mason's ultimatum, her eviction, her fear for the baby. Within the hour, the volunteer had arranged a cot for her in the church's fellowship hall. She directed her to an emergency food pantry down the block. She gave her the name and number of a crisis nurse at Cedar Falls Women's Health Clinic. That night, lying on a lumpy cot beneath stained glass windows of saints and shepherds, Zoey cradled her stomach. She protected a secret flame. The church's hush wrapped around her, a fragile blanket of safety that seemed almost too good to be true. She drifted between panic and a cautious hope that tomorrow might be kinder. When morning light filtered through the arches, she packed her meager belongings. She headed to the clinic. A kind nurse confirmed the baby was stable, though Zoey's blood pressure read dangerously high from stress. She was given pamphlets and a temporary prescription to manage her condition. She received a referral to a social worker who could connect her with housing assistance. Zoey clutched the papers like a lifeline. Between the clinic and a cramped room in the church's women's shelter, Zoey survived on peanut butter sandwiches and the generosity of strangers. Every night, she lay awake imagining the little heart beating inside her, a bright point of life in her dark world. She scribbled drawings of the apartment she would one day afford. She sketched the art studio she dreamed of opening, each sketch a promise to herself and the child she carried. On the third evening at the shelter, her phone rang. The caller ID read, "Mom." Her breath caught, thumb hovering. Could she face Margot now, after all the lies? The ringer's insistent buzz faded before she answered. She stared at the screen, tears stinging. At that moment, the shelter's door swung open. A tall woman with silver-streaked hair strode in.
"Zoey? It's me, Mom."
Margot Caldwell's southern drawl wrapped around the single word like a lifeline. Zoey bolted upright, sobs bursting free. She placed the phone to her ear and whispered into the crackling line. I'm so sorry. I got kicked out, I'm pregnant." Sobs choked her, but her mother's calming voice flowed over her wounds. "I'm on a plane. I'll be there soon, baby." That night, Zoey felt forgiveness in her mother's promise, a balm soothing her fractured soul. Within 48 hours, Margot arrived, arms full of essentials and a fierce determination. She rented a small bungalow on the town's outskirts, far from the memories of betrayal. She hired a doula, scheduled weekly prenatal care. She settled Zoey into a soft bed with fresh sheets. As Zoey stood on the porch swing, feeling the late afternoon breeze spark hope through her sorrow, she realized something. From the depths of humiliation and heartbreak, she had been carried by the kindness of strangers and the unwavering love of her mother. The eviction, the shame, the nights of washing dishes and sleeping on church cots, they had nearly broken her. But within her, that fragile spark grew stronger. The promise that she and her baby would survive, that she would rebuild her life with honesty and courage. In the hush of that porch, Zoey let herself believe in tomorrow's possibility. Harper Flynn steered Noah's scooter through the bustling aisles of the Cedar Falls Farmers Market on a warm Saturday morning. His laughter mingled with the hum of haggling voices and fresh produce scents. She carried her canvas tote bulging with heirloom tomatoes and jars of local honey. Her eyes searched for the lavender stall where she meant to pick up sachets for her apartment. As Noah zoomed ahead, Harper noticed two figures standing by the community bulletin board. Their posture was bowed, their faces streaked with tears. One was Zoey Caldwell, tear tracks marking her cheeks. The other, Zoey's mother, Margot Caldwell, pressed a protective hand on her daughter's shoulder. Harper's chest tightened. The sight of her cousin's anguish was a vivid echo of her own heartbreak from months earlier. Drawing a deep breath to steady herself, Harper parked Noah's scooter against a wooden barrel planter. She approached them. The scent of fresh basil wafted through the air, but Harper barely registered it. Each step felt weighted, every inhale laced with memory of the text messages with lipstick kiss emojis, of the courtroom's sterile walls, of her landlord's eviction notice fluttering in her suitcase. Yet beneath those painful recollections, she felt an unexpected urge to step into this moment of suffering and offer something she could only now summon: compassion. Noah skidded back to her side, helmet askew. "Mom, is that Zoey?" he asked, pointing. Harper placed a finger gently to his lips. "Stay here, okay?" she said softly. He nodded. Harper came to a halt a few feet away from the Caldwell women. Zoey's head was bowed, her shoulders trembling. Margot's muffled sobs filled the space between kale bundles and artisan cheese wheels. Harper cleared her throat. Zoey looked up, her eyes widening in shock as recognition bloomed. Pain flickered at her gaze. Harper's voice cracked slightly when she spoke. "Zoey." Zoey flinched, as though expecting rebuke. But Harper held out a hand in greeting and moved to stand beside them. Margot's mascara had begun to run. Her eyes, though swollen, were clear and determined. She met Harper's gaze first. "Harper," she said, voice thick, "thank you for coming." Harper nodded, glancing at Zoey with unspoken understanding of the turmoil that must have led her here. "May we talk for a moment?" she asked gently. Zoey barely managed a nod. They edged away from the busy main path to a corner near a display of hand-woven baskets. The sweet hum of live bluegrass drifted from a nearby stage. Harper waited until the last stragglers passed before she began. "Zoey, I know you've been through unimaginable hardship these past weeks," she said quietly, keeping her tone calm. "I know about the eviction notice, the confusion, the shame of it all." Zoey bit her lip, eyes glistening. Harper continued, "I've watched you endure so much. Nights washing dishes in that diner. Nights scrambling for spare change at the library. The fear of being alone while carrying your baby. I know what it means to feel like the ground has vanished beneath your feet." Zoey let out a barely audible sob. Margot wrapped an arm around her daughter's shoulders, brushing hair away from Zoey's forehead. Harper's heart ached. She remembered her own journey, drafting plans for a life she thought she had, only to see those lines crumble. She had thrown herself into custody hearings and sleepless nights. But at no point had she ever truly allowed herself to feel mercy until now. Taking a slow breath, Harper placed her hand gently on Zoey's arm. "I'm not here to rehash who did what, or to heap more guilt on you. We both know the mistakes were grave. But I've come to realize that forgiveness isn't about condoning wrongs. It's about releasing the bitterness, so we can all move forward." Zoey's eyes locked onto Harper's, searching for sincerity. "Your baby doesn't deserve any of this pain. You don't deserve to carry that burden alone. So, I want you to know, I forgive you." Zoey's mouth quivered as she stared in disbelief. Her mother's gasp mingled with the distant strum of guitars. You forgive me?" Zoey whispered, voice thick with emotion. Her mother's eyes filled as well. Harper nodded, squeezing Zoey's arm.
"Yes.
You're going to be a mother soon. And that child needs love, not resentment." She turned and gestured toward the market stalls. "Go to the support booth over there and ask for help. I'll cover any expenses they ask. Promise me you'll take whatever you need to get through this." Margot stepped forward, tears streaming anew. "Thank you, Harper. Thank you so much." Zoey buried her face in her mother's shoulder. Myriad emotions played across her features. Noah, having watched silently, scooted over and tugged at his mother's jeans. "Mom, can I meet Zoey later?" She looked sad. Harper looked down at him, relief and pride swelling inside. "Maybe one day, sweetie. Soon." He nodded, then turned to the stall selling homemade lemonade, eager to relieve the tension with a cold drink. Harper watched her son's retreating figure. She felt a lightness she hadn't known since the day she had pressed divorce papers into her attorney's hands. She realized that part of healing meant standing tall in the face of pain and choosing compassion. Not for the person who broke her heart alone, but for everyone caught in the wreckage, herself. Zoey, even Mason, whose own regrets she understood all too well. Margot and Zoey fell in step beside Harper as they moved toward the market's aid booth. The trio's footsteps echoed on flagstone paths. Margot introduced Zoey, and as the volunteer rifled through pamphlets on prenatal care, Harper glanced around at the colorful produce and the chatter of vendors. The market's vitality felt like a metaphor, new growth arising from the earth's deep soil. In its abundance, Harper sensed possibility for all of them. By the time the family of 3 rejoined Noah at the lemonade stand, the sun had climbed higher. It cast playful shadows through the striped canopy. Zoey carried a small stack of pamphlets and a voucher secured by the volunteer's smile of genuine encouragement. Margot had Zoey's arm protectively, but her grin was hopeful. Harper handed Zoey a crisp bill to cover the voucher's fee. Zoey accepted it with trembling gratitude. As they parted ways, Harper bent down to kiss Noah's cheek. "Ready for that lemonade?" she asked softly. He beamed. "Yes, Mom." Zoey approached Harper and whispered, "I don't know how to thank you." Harper smiled warmly. "Just pay kindness forward someday." Zoey nodded, tears of relief glinting in her eyes. In that brief but powerful moment beneath the market's cheerful awnings, a deep wound began to close. Forgiveness had not erased the past, but it had cleared a path toward peace. Harper watched Zoey's family drift away. She squeezed Noah's hand and guided him to the makeshift lemonade stand. As they sipped their icy drinks, Harper allowed herself to feel hope unfurl like a tender bud. She had faced the storm of betrayal and emerged not bitter, but with an open heart. In forgiving Zoey, she had liberated her own soul. And as the market's vibrant energy pulsed around them, hand-woven baskets filled with flowers, laughter spilling from children chasing balloons, an old guitarist strumming contented tunes, Harper knew that this moment of mercy would ripple outward, sowing seeds of healing wherever they fell. Sunlight filtered through the lace curtains of Harper Flynn and Avery Scott's new home on North Cedar Falls Way. It painted delicate patterns across the polished oak floors. The two-story craftsman, with its wraparound porch and climbing jasmine vines, felt like a living testament to the promise of fresh starts. Inside, the air was filled with the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee, Avery's latest single-origin Ethiopian roast. The sound of laughter drifted up from the backyard. 5-year-old Noah and his baby sister, Emma, chased a soccer ball across the Dukas lawn. Harper paused at the top of the stairs. Her hand rested lightly on the banister's smooth curve. She watched Noah race past with Emma toddling behind. Her chubby legs pumped in slow-motion determination. Avery, clad in jeans and an apron dusted with flour, knelt beside a small herb garden along the porch railing. She tucked in seedlings of basil, thyme, and baby kale. The sight filled Harper with a warmth that felt like sunlight trapped in her chest. After everything she had endured, the weight of betrayal, the heartache of her marriage's end, the painful process of starting over, this peace seemed miraculous. She met Avery's gaze and smiled. "They're getting good at that," she called down, nodding at the children. "They've got Grandma Flynn's stubborn streak," Avery replied, rising to her feet. She brushed dirt from her knees and looked up at Harper with a soft grin. "Come help me pick rosemary. We need enough for dinner." Together, they stepped onto the porch. Their easy familiarity echoed in the gentle creak of the floorboards. Harper plucked sprigs of rosemary from neatly spaced bushes. Emma toddled up, her bright blue eyes wide. She reached out, offering Harper a limp blade of rosemary. Harper knelt to Emma's level. "Good helper," she praised, tucking the rosemary behind Emma's ear. Emma giggled, then ran back toward Noah. He kicked the soccer ball too hard, and it soared over the garden fence. Noah chased after it, nearly toppling over the low brick boundary as he dove for the ball. Avery watched him with affectionate exasperation. "One day he'll learn his own strength," she sighed. Then, as though on cue, Noah stood, rubbed his palms together, and sent the ball sailing even farther. Emma clapped. Harper laughed. They gathered the rosemary sprigs in a woven basket. They stepped inside through French doors. The kitchen was bright and airy, painted a soft dove gray with white subway tiles. Open shelves displayed mason jars of spices. On the center island, a pitcher of lemonade waited, fresh squeezed, fragrant with mint. Harper grabbed 2 tall glasses and filled them. Avery added ice cubes, then handed Harper one. "To us," Avery toasted, lifting her glass. "To this home, these kids, and our crazy, beautiful life." Harper touched her glass to Avery's. "To never giving up." They sipped lemonade, the tart sweetness a perfect complement to the warm summer air. Soon, the children returned with the recovered soccer ball, mud on their knees and triumphant grins. Harper tousled Noah's hair and scooped Emma onto her hip. "Dinner in 20, she announced. Emma gurgled as Avery sprinkled chopped rosemary over chicken roasting in the oven. The kitchen filled with savory warmth. The aroma of garlic and lemon intertwined with the herb's piney notes. As they set the table on the adjoining dining porch, strings of fairy lights strung overhead cast a gentle glow. Harper placed a fresh bouquet of sunflowers in a mason jar. Its bright yellow petals nodded in the breeze. The rails were draped with ivy, and the antique lanterns, Avery's grandmother's, lent a timeless charm to the space. When the meal was ready, they sat down family-style. Wooden chairs and benches pulled close, mismatched china collected from local flea markets, and linen napkins hand-dyed a deep forest green. They passed platters of rosemary chicken, roasted baby potatoes, and a kale and strawberry salad drizzled with raspberry vinaigrette. Noah jabbed a potato with his fork. He declared loudly, "This is the best food ever," causing Emma to giggle as she mashed a grape into her lap. Avery chuckled. "Cooking for you is an honor," she said to Noah, who beamed in response. Harper watched the scene, her son's unbridled joy, her daughter's wide-eyed innocence, Avery's easy warmth. She felt a profound gratitude. The echoes of past tragedies had faded into distant memories. Here, in this blend of sunshine and laughter, she and her chosen family had crafted something new and unbreakable. After dinner, they migrated to the backyard patio. Lanterns dangled from the branches of a magnolia tree. Harper cranked an old record player. The gentle strum of an acoustic guitar filled the night air. Avery handed out small wooden bowls of Esmore's mix, dark chocolate chunks, mini marshmallows, and graham cracker crumbs. She lit the fire pit's first blaze. As they roasted marshmallows on skewers, Harper felt Avery's hand slip into hers. Their fingers intertwined easily, a silent affirmation of the journey that had brought them here. She thought of the sharp edges of her past, the betrayal by her cousin, the acrid taste of courtroom bitterness. Now those memories lay softened by time and forgiveness.
Noah,
Sticky with melted chocolate, leaned against Harper's leg. He whispered, "Mom, can we do this every night?" Harper smiled down at him. "Every night, if we could." He grinned. Emma yanked at Avery's skirt, pointing to the fire. "Bobby-ay," she squealed, delighting in the flickering flames. Avery nudged Harper with her shoulder. "Look at our little tribe." Harper nodded. "Heartful." "We're home," she said softly. As the fire crackled and the record spun on, painting the evening with gentle tunes, the four of them sat in contented silence. Firelight flickered over Harper's face. It illuminated the lines of joy and peace etched there. In the quiet, she reflected on how far she had come. From the shattered ruins of her former marriage to this haven of acceptance and love. At that moment, a single firefly danced into view. Its green glow winked in the night air before bobbing away toward the garden. Harper followed its path for a heartbeat, then looked at Avery. "You know," she said, voice soft, "I never believed in miracles." She paused as Avery turned to her. "But this feels like one." Avery brushed a stray lock of hair from Harper's face and smiled. "Miracles are just ordinary things seen through a lens of gratitude," she replied. Noah nudged his mother. "Can I tell a story?" he asked. Harper nodded. He began an enthusiastic retelling of an imaginary quest. A dragon, a ship made of pancakes, and a heroic marshmallow night. Emma and Avery clapped at every twist. Harper laughed so hard tears slipped down her cheeks. The night wound down. Harper tucked the children into their separate beds. Noah under a superhero quilt, Emma in a crib strewn with soft pastel blankets. She kissed their foreheads. She whispered, "I love you to the moon and back." They each murmured sleepy affirmations as they drifted off. Back downstairs, Harper and Avery settled on the couch with 2 mugs of chamomile tea. Avery leaned her head on Harper's shoulder. "To family," Avery murmured. Harper wrapped her arm around Avery. "To love," she replied. Outside, the porch lanterns dimmed. Only the soft rustle of magnolia leaves stirred in the warm breeze.
Inside,
2 women and their children slept peacefully under the same roof, safe in the knowledge that life, with all its trials, had ultimately led them here. And when Harper closed her eyes that night, she dreamed not of blueprints or courtrooms, but instead of a future built on faith, forgiveness, and a love as steadfast as the sunrise that would greet them all tomorrow. Harper Flynn stood on the wide wraparound porch of her North Cedar Falls way home. The first rays of dawn painted the sky in soft pink and gold. The magnolia trees that framed her yard rustled gently in the morning breeze. Their fragrant blossoms drifted through the air like confetti. In her hands, she cradled a simple ceramic mug of chamomile tea. Its steam curled upward in lazy tendrils. Behind her, the house she and Avery had transformed from a modest craftsman into a sanctuary gleamed with promise. White-painted wood siding, ivy-clad trellis, and windows that reflected the waking world. Harper inhaled deeply, savoring the quiet moment before the day's rush began. It had been a year of upheaval. Mason's betrayal, the bitter divorce, Zoey's desperate eviction, the courtroom battles. But here she was, safe and loved, watching a new chapter dawn. Her thoughts drifted back to the precise moment she recognized that strength is built, not bestowed. She had discovered the messages on Mason's phone late one evening. A lipstick kiss emoji, tender words between him and Zoey that shredded her trust. In the days that followed, she'd been forced to become her own advocate, assembling evidence, filing petitions, and appearing before Judge Rivera in Marion County Family Court. The sterile courtroom, with its echoing wood-paneled walls and implacable glare, had felt like a crucible testing her resolve. Yet when the judge granted her temporary custody orders, Harper felt a fierce clarity. She would protect Noah at all costs and rebuild her life on foundations of truth. Sipping her tea, she allowed herself a small smile at the memory of Avery's support. Avery had met her at a crossroads, offering coffee-fueled brainstorming sessions in the cozy corner of Maple and Main Cafe. Now they shared both professional success and deep personal bond. With Avery by her side, Harper had designed community art initiatives. She taught children about architecture in weekend workshops. She transformed the cafe's blank back wall into a vibrant mural symbolizing rebirth. Each brushstroke, each supportive conversation, had reminded Harper that compassion has transformative power. Forgiving Zoey at the farmer's market, offering not judgment but a lifeline for her pregnant cousin, had freed Harper from bitterness. It opened the path to empathy. Inside the house, Ava rose from the wooden dining table, where fresh batches of rosemary scones cooled. Their children, Noah and little Emma, were already awake and playing in the living room. Harper set her mug aside and stepped back inside. The porch door swung closed behind her. The hallways smelled faintly of lavender, sachets she'd hung to celebrate spring. Soft giggles drifted toward her. She followed the sound to find Noah, now 6, bounding around the plush area rug. Emma trailed giggles behind him. He tossed a colorful softball toward his sister. She caught it, her chubby legs wobbling with delight. When Noah caught sight of his mother, he launched himself into her arms, knocking her off balance in a tangle of limbs and laughter. Harper scooped both children up in a hug, feeling the assurance of family she hadn't known a year ago. After breakfast, she guided Noah to the front door. Today he had his first soccer practice of the season. It was a small victory, a mother juggling work and parenting, taking her son to team practice under a sky so blue it seemed impossible a single storm cloud had ever crossed her path. She kissed him on the forehead as he laced up his cleats. "Play your heart out," she called. He grinned, sprinting off to join his teammates on the dewy grass. Emma toddled behind, clutching a stuffed bunny. "Bye-bye, Mommy," she squealed. Harper waved and blew a kiss, her heart full. Alone again, she returned inside and found Avery at the kitchen island, reviewing blueprints for the upcoming Ellis warehouse project, a collaboration converting abandoned industrial space into affordable live-work studios for artists. Avery looked up, her warm eyes bright. "Morning," she said, stretching. "Ready for the big presentation next week?" Harper nodded, her mind already shifting to outlines, renderings, and community impact statements. They sipped coffee in companionable silence, the aroma as familiar and comforting as an old friend's embrace. By mid-afternoon, Harper found herself at Maple and Main, lending feedback on mural sketches and exchanging smiles with regulars. The cafe hummed with life. Students buried in laptops, parents enjoying lattes while their children played in the adjacent reading nook. Local musicians setting up for open mic night. In the back corner, Zoey and her mother, Margot, were immersed in conversation. Zoe's new role assisting with youth art classes had reinvigorated her. Margot's steady presence reflected a family restored. Harper caught Zoe's eye and offered a gentle nod. Zoe smiled gratefully. Forgiveness had not erased the past, but it had created space for healing for both of them. When evening approached, Harper and Avery returned home for a family barbecue in the backyard. String lights were already hung above the patio. The scent of grilling rosemary chicken mingled with the lavender in the flower beds. Neighbors wandered in with side dishes, potato salad, grilled corn, green salad tossed with strawberries from the farmer's market. Music drifted from portable speakers. A sense of community enveloped them, a testament to what love and shared effort could build. As Harper seated Emma in her high chair and helped Noah flip burgers at the grill, she reflected on how her definition of family had evolved. It was no longer a list of genetic relations or social conventions, but a tapestry woven from trust, loyalty, and mutual care. Avery was family by choice. Just as Zoe's mother had become part of her extended support system, the local artisans, volunteers, and even the security guard at the library who'd guided Zoe to safety. Each contributed to the mosaic of connection. Night deepened, and the barbecue wound down. Children chased fireflies along the fence line, their laughter ringing like chimes in the dark. Harper, Avery, Noah, and Emma gathered around a small fire pit, roasting marshmallows and telling stories. Noah proudly recounted his dribbling success. Emma clapped at every word. Avery recited a whimsical poem about a pancake boat sailing on syrup seas. Harper leaned her head against Avery's shoulder, savoring the moment's simplicity and significance. When the last marshmallow toasted to golden perfection, Emma yawningly sank into Harper's arms. "Bedtime," Harper murmured, carrying her inside. She tucked Noah into bed and drifted into Emma's room, settling her daughter under a quilt embroidered with constellations, collected from late-night selling sessions at artisan markets. With Emma's soft sigh of drowsiness, Harper closed the door. She paused in the hallway. The house was quiet, every corner whispering memories of struggle overcome. Later, in the sanctuary of their bedroom, Harper slipped under the covers beside Avery. Avery's fingers wove into hers. They shared a moment of peaceful gratitude. The pillow between them bore the faint imprint of tears and laughter. Harper exhaled slowly, the tension of the day dissolving. She thought of the single apology note Mason had left, etched in shaky handwriting and regret too late. She felt no anger, only a gentle compassion for a man who had taught her the true cost of betrayal. Harper closed her eyes and replayed the arc of her journey. The shock of discovery, the fierce advocacy for custody, the kindness that saved Zoe, the laughter of forgiven souls, the warmth of chosen family. She carried these lessons in her heart as steadfast planks in her new foundation. The blueprint of her life was no longer confined to paper. It had taken shape in forgiveness, resilience, and love. As sleep claimed her, Harper whispered into the darkness, "May tomorrow be as bright as today." And as the night deepened, the gentle rise and fall of breath beside her spoke of renewed hope. She dreamed of sunlit mornings, children's giggles, and open doors. Of a life crafted not by perfect designs, but by the courageous embrace of second chances. In that dream, every sunrise was a fresh canvas. Every heartbeat a brushstroke of possibility. Every act of kindness a masterpiece in the gallery of the heart. And that brings us to the end of today's story on Truistery Vibes. Don't forget to leave a comment with a quote or moment that touched you the most. Your words give our team the motivation to keep creating more heartfelt stories. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.